Hi everyone, I am back in the classroom to continue on pentose phosphate pathway. In my previous video, I forgot to explain how the NADP plus is reduced in third reaction of oxidative phase. As I mentioned here, this reaction, third reaction, is catalyzed by 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. This enzyme catalyzes the conversion of 6-phosphogluconate to ribulose 5-phosphate in two steps. In first step, here I marked the electrons, the hydrogens, right? So these electrons from 6-phosphogluconate will be transferred to NADP plus in first step. That NADP plus becomes NADPH. Right? Here, this enzyme transfers these two electrons to NADP plus and it is reduced to NADPH. Once 6-phosphogluconate transfers these two electrons to NADP plus, that becomes 6-phospho-3-ketogluconate. It is an intermediate. In the next step, this intermediate, the carboxylic group, I marked here, this carboxylic group will be removed in the form of carbon dioxide. That forms ribulose 5-phosphate. Right? So here, this enzyme in first step transfers these two electrons to NADP plus and then becomes NADPH. Then 6-phosphogluconate is oxidized to 6-phospho-3-ketogluconate. In next step, the carboxylic group will be released in the form of carbon dioxide and forms ribulose 5-phosphate. Okay, so with this, I'll move on to regulation of pentose phosphate pathway. As we discussed, regulation of glycolysis, regulation of TCA cycle, regulation of pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, you know that one or two rate limiting steps regulate the metabolic pathway. Similarly, pentose phosphate pathway is also regulated by a rate limiting step. What is rate limiting step? That is strictly irreversible reaction. So in this pathway, the rate limiting step is catalyzed by the enzyme, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. This enzyme catalyzes the irreversible reaction, which is a rate limiting reaction. Right? So this enzyme, approximately of 59 kilodalton, the active form of this enzyme, either dimer or tetramer. This active form of enzyme always bound to NADP plus. If there is no NADP is bound, that means enzyme is inactive. That means glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is regulated by NADP plus. So NADP plus is one of the substrates of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. The increased level of NADP plus in the cell, that means decreased level of NADPH. When the level of NADP plus is increased, that activates glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase by binding to the active site. What it suggests? It suggests that the ratio of NADP plus to NADPH plays important role. The ratio of NADP plus to NADPH plays important role because the ratio of NADP plus to NADPH is maintained in all the cells. If that ratio is altered, then this glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase either activated or inactivated. Right? If NADP plus level is increased, the enzyme activity is enhanced. If NADPH concentration is high, then this enzyme will be inhibited. Right? So that's all about regulation of pentose phosphate pathway. So I want to stress some important aspects on glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in RBCs. Remember, in my first video, I mentioned about the role of NADPH that plays very important role in maintaining the reductive environment in some of the cells that are highly exposed to reactive oxygen species, including RBCs and phagocytes. In this, I am going to stress on the importance of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in RBCs, red blood cells or erythrocytes. You know that RBCs, after maturation, once RBCs are matured, they live in the circulation from 100 to 120 days. After 100 to 120 days, they are going to die naturally, right? And also, here RBCs, red blood cells or erythrocytes, they transport oxygen to the different parts of the body. Because they transport oxygen, they are vulnerable to generate or accumulate reactive oxygen species. If that reactive oxygen species are not reduced or quenched, that leads to the oxidative stress. That oxidative stress converts hemoglobin to methemoglobin. Ultimately, this oxidative stress damages plasma membrane. Right? Then how these RBCs reduce reactive oxygen species? Mainly hydrogen peroxide. There comes the role of NADPH, the role of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in RBCs. What happens here? Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase catalyzes the first reaction of pentose phosphate pathway that generates NADPH. That NADPH involved in reduction of H2O2. How that H2O2 is reduced to water in RBCs? Here, an important enzyme GPX, glutathione peroxidase. Glutathione peroxidase is an important enzyme that reduces H2O2 to H2O, toxic to non-toxic. This GPX requires reduced glutathione as a substrate. However, glutathione present in the cell in the form of GSSG. That is oxidized glutathione. This oxidized glutathione will be reduced to GSH with the help of glutathione reductase. This glutathione reductase requires NADPH to convert this oxidized glutathione to reduced glutathione. Once GPX gets GSH glutathione in the form of reduced form, this GPS, glutathione peroxidase, can reduce H2O2 to H2O. This reduced glutathione becomes oxidized glutathione. Again, the cycle continues. Another system that plays important role in the reduction of reactive oxygen species or peroxides are thioredoxin system. So here also same thing, thioredoxin reductase utilizes NADPH produced in the pentose phosphate pathway, and that can also reduce H2O2 to H2O. So you may think that why glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase or pentose phosphate pathway is so important in RBCs. Because you know that matured RBCs, they don't have mitochondria, they don't have nucleus, they don't have ribosome. Since RBCs lack mitochondria, pentose phosphate pathway or glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is the only source of generation of NADPH. Right? So this is the only source of NADPH production. So that's why glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is very critical in maintaining the reductive environment in RBCs. You just imagine the deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in the RBC. What happens? Because that is the only source of production of NADPH or generation of NADPH. There is no reducing agent to quench H2O2. There will be accumulation of these peroxides. That accumulation of peroxides, right, converts hemoglobin to methemoglobin and damages membrane. So, deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase can lead to hemolytic anemia. There will be hemolysis. Deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase that makes RBCs vulnerable to oxidative stress and they don't live 100 to 120 days. Their lifespan will be reduced in the absence of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So another important aspect on this glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency and resistant to malaria. This topic is a little bit controversial. Most of the aspects I could not understand fully, but I will try to explain what I understood. We have 3 species of Plasmodium parasite that causes malarial fever. In that, major Plasmodium falciparum that causes severe malaria. These 2 species can also cause malaria. There are some studies suggesting that glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency leads to resistant to malaria, but it's not fully resistant, relatively resistant. That too, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency people, they are somewhat resistant to falciparum. Malarial fever induced by falciparum, not to Burbax or oval. And also malaria, you know that it's highly prevalent in South Africa and Southeast Asia, including India. The drugs that are used to treat malaria are Primaquine, Chloroquine. Those are all phenols. Another important drug, that is artemisinin, that is an alkaloid. So this artemisinin was discovered by Chinese scientist Yu Tu. She got Nobel Prize in 2015 in physiology and medicine. So here, Primaquine and Chloroquine, those are all phenols. They can treat malaria, but there are some reports suggesting that some malarial fever, they are resistant to chloroquine. Some malarial fevers, they cannot be treated using chloroquine because they became resistant to chloroquine. But still, they are treating malaria. Patients are treated with the combination of these drugs. Nowadays, they don't use Primaquine, but they use Primaquine, Chloroquine and artemisinin in combination. So when they first tried Primaquine in clinical trial in 1926, they tried the clinical trial of Primaquine. Most of the malarial patients, they tolerated this drug. Very few, they could not tolerate this drug and then they become severe anemia. When they screen, why only those patients became anemic? They could see that they were all deficient with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, right? Upon that, if you provide Primaquine, these phenols, they generate a lot of reactive oxygen species that accumulates reactive oxygen species like peroxides that enhances oxidative stress. So that severely what is that affect RBC's lifespan. So that leads to drug induced hemolytic anemia. Drug induced hemolytic anemia. That's why nowadays to treat malaria, patients are screened for deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, either deficiency or mutations of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Then they will treat with these quinones in combination with artemisinin. So this completes pentose phosphate pathway and the importance of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, right? So another thing I forgot here is how these drugs, quinones, can be used to treat malaria. There are several possible mechanisms. One mechanism they reported is, for example, you have heard a lot about chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine regarding COVID-19. This chloroquine or any quinones, they can enter food vacuoles of malaria. Malarial parasite that is present in RBCs. That malarial parasite's anatomy, that is food vacuole. In that food vacuole, acidic environment required to cleave host hemoglobin. That acidic environment can cleave hemoglobin. That hemoglobin, the peptide generated from hemoglobin, can be used for growth of this parasite. These quinones, including chloroquine, what they do, they enter into the RBC, and these are all basic in nature. They enter and alter the pH of the food vacuole of malarial parasite, right? So that's how these quinones can be used to treat malaria. That's one of the mechanism. So another thing, why the glucose 6-phosphate deficiency somewhat resistant to malaria, because deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase that can result in high level of oxidative stress. These Plasmodium parasites, are very vulnerable to, or highly vulnerable to oxidative stress. So that is also one of the possibility why the glucose 6-phosphate deficiency is somewhat resistant to malaria. Okay, so in my next video I will be explaining biosynthesis of starch, sucrose and lactose. Okay, thank you.